Okay. Might be good while we're still letting people connect. So Greg and I are going to present a talk. We've both presented separately and together, but we developed it together. And we'd kind of like to ask you before we start the presentation, what are your thoughts about how to go about machine learning or data science projects in a company from scratch? How would you start those from scratch? And any thoughts? It's okay if there's no answers, but you can put them in the chat or whatever. And I'm going to just catch up on the chat here real quick. Thank you, Margaret, for sharing. And then on the vaccine. And then hi, Anupam. How are you? I hope I'm saying that right. Now you go. I don't know if is it okay that you sent that to me directly, but I don't want to share it unless it's okay. And then hey, Amir. Is it Amir or Amir? How do I say it correctly? A-M-I-R. I would say, I would think Amir, but I'm not sure. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it's Amir.
Okay, good, very good. Okay, so the from scratch. Now, what Greg and I are going to present is not, how do I put this? It's not necessarily everything you need to think about from scratch. It's a strong suggestion about how to do more together between business and data science. In other words, how to get the best return on investment from your data scientist, how to get the best return on investment from your data. And I'm going to share the screen and let Greg kind of kick it off so he can give his high level thing before we actually get into the slides. And Greg and I are going to go much faster through these slides than we normally do, just so we can get to the discussion points and then we can go through the slides more. But we want to leave a lot of time for discussion. That's why we're going to do it that way. And Greg, there we are. Can y'all, I'm assuming it's indicating clearly to me that y'all can see the slides.
So let's go ahead and get started, guys. So we, Thom and I, we had this presentation again, as he stated. We presented together or separately, and this is all about return on data. How do we promote best collaboration between business and data science teams? This is definitely a more together spirit that can bring greater value to the business through machine learning development. When you think about projects, there usually is a lot of people involved, and as Kimberly said in the comments on the side, she alluded to it a lot. Like she talked about scoping, she talked about the goals. At the end of the day, when there are multiple teams that are involved, you want to make sure that communication is key. Communication is continuous. When there are hurdles, people know about it. People understand the expectations. Now, when we talk about projects, when it comes to data, that's where a lot of the complications come in. Data we're barely scratching the surface. With the digital age, our data assets are growing exponentially. And with that, you have different companies who have reached different capabilities in terms of how they can maximize their returns on data. And most of the time you have to have the leaders in terms of data are the ones that promote this culture from the top down. And they have to spend a lot of efforts to make sure that the best culture, the best practices are communicated from the top down. They enable the data evangelist to work hard, to know how to explore and analyze, and also extract the best value and define what these actions downstream should be to make sure that they get the best returns. So overall, it takes a village to make sure that data is explored in a very consistent, concise manner. So when it comes to something like data, exploratory data analysis, this is to me something that is very estimated, because inside of that you can unravel so much information that can propel your team members to take action very quickly, even before you get to the meat of it, the meat of the technology that we're here to talk about, which is machine learning. So with that, this is not an effort that takes core expertise. This is core appreciation of what different teams around the organization can do to make sure that data is explored and also the maximum return is achieved while leveraging data.
This is my slide.
Yep, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So Greg's awesome, as we all know, but y'all might not have known that he has a master's in industrial engineering and also, oh, excuse me, he has a bachelor's in industrial engineering and a master's in engineering management from the University of Florida, which is a great university. And he's used data for more than 10 years to make decisions that generated value for businesses. So career-wise, though, he's been a process engineer, supply chain manager, quality manager, operations manager, project manager, and now a program manager at Amazon. But as you all know, probably too, Greg is an awesome talk voice. And I kind of like to joke, when I was growing up, there were news commercials. They had the name of the news channel and then they'd say at 5, you know, and I feel like every time I see a post from Greg on LinkedIn, it's top data science news from Greg at 12, because it's like clockwork. Well, 11 his time. You can almost set your clock by the time he releases his post. He's so disciplined at it, but he really has added a lot of value to our community. And then
thank you.
we usually let, we're practicing introducing each other. So I'll let Greg mess with my mind here.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for that presentation about me, Thom. And so just to say, the words showing up on these slides here are not worthy of everything Thom has done. As you can expect, just like a resume cannot detail everything you've done in your life. So this slide is very minimal, but I'll take a stab at it. We can all say that Thom is very data centric, but also passionate about multi-physics modeling. So geek is not even the word to describe that. So for 30 years, Thom has leveraged his skills to find value, stories, and prophecy using data. Some of the career track for Thom: PhD in mechanical engineering, a data science practitioner, and long before we even called it data science, I think maybe Thom can tell us what it used to be called, but I have a feeling back in the day it was also seen as the hot job. This is just a guess that I'm making here. 26 plus US patents. So if one day opportunities allow me to create a startup and that startup will have to file for patents, guess who I will hire as a consultant? Worked in R&D, MIMS, nuclear, multi-physical system designs, automated data collections and reportings, and again, data science master. So currently, Thom is the lead data scientist for UL Prospector and the creator of integrated machine learning. So it's such an honor to present you and work with you and use you as my mentor and ask you any questions at midnight.
I feel the same. So mission. we want to change the focus from the number of machine learning models that get into production to just the general return on data. Because you know what? You don't always necessarily need modeling. But if it takes 80% or more of our efforts to get the data ready for modeling, do you think there might be something to gain from that? So we think there is, and we want to promote good business and data science collaboration throughout the process to ensure an ever improving return on data. Greg, what would you add here?
No, that's pretty much it. It's about promoting the best practices, and it's to make sure that at the end of the day, communication is key to a success of any project ever. And when we focus on the right things, in this case, focusing on what can data do for a business versus the number of models that we put out, we change everybody's mindset and what really matters to ensure that when we have some business use cases that need help with ML, we know exactly where to go to make sure that ML does the job well. And that's by focusing on the right data. On the agenda, we're going to talk about how everything is business originated and data driven. We're going to go through the triage of business issues. You can't fix it all. The core exploration of business needs and current data assets. Collaborative data strategy. We're going to talk about the spectrum of model usage and delivery. We're going to walk you through an example of business and data science collaboration, and we're going to bring it all together at the end. Starting with business originated and data driven. Basically, you cannot target something without going upfront where the problem is. And typically, it's when you have a business issue. On the business side is where you have the main processes that generate value for a company. And with that, that's where you target all the pain points. And you can't just look at data and say, here's the problem. You have to come up with the business pain points. And then at the end of the day, being business originated doesn't mean that you can just deduct what the solution is. You have to go back to data and figure out where or what really is the root cause. And you have to start thinking about what kind of solutions you can start putting together. So even though the issues are business originated, the data is what drives how do you solve these problems, these pain points. So you have to know, or you can't know for sure how to address these problems without having the data to back that up. So you can say in words that you have a problem here in the business process, but to gain alignment across your team members, across your stakeholders, the data needs to be present to back that up. Onto business triage, Thom.
So yeah, here we're being very Simon Sinek-y. I mean that in a good way. Start with why for the business. This is just what Greg was emphasizing. Then what? What can we do with the ground truth data around that why? And then how? With data storytelling and machine learning when needed. So a lot of times you can get so far with just data storytelling. So then we do a co-exploration of business needs and current data assets. Oh. So what does that mean? We first triage the business needs, then we assess data assets, and by doing these two together, we don't just have a unidimensional prioritization, we have a prioritization matrix or table. And so what do we mean by that? Well, in business triage, We're just saying, what are the business priorities? What are the business needs? But if we're going to be data driven, we also have to look at the state of the data. In other words, what data do we have on hand? Do we need to collect new data? Is there no data on hand? If there isn't, and it's an important business question, we better start collecting some data as soon as possible. So the goal here is to look at maximum intersections between the business needs and the data assets. And then this gives us great guidance on what work we can do now in each area, rather than just running around without any clear direction. So I'll let Greg describe this.
Yeah, so this is one of my favorite slides in the presentation. And I love matrices, and they clearly define some sort of decision orientation, or gives you a good clue of how things are mapped out. And if you look at the top side, you have the business triage, 1, 2, 3, 4. Another way to look at this is you have this business that has many processes, and each of these processes have some pain points. And you cannot solve it all, but yet you find a way to select the top 4. This is what you have on the top side. And on the side here, you have your data assets. So those are the, this is the data that's logged or created because of these business processes. So you have data assets 1 to 4, and we've performed some sort of weights for each of these 2. So for business triage, we have weights in terms of importance. So that means prior to building this matrix, you've already gained alignment from people who are responsible for these business processes. A leader of the organization, for example, who was able to work with you to prioritize in terms of importance, in terms of impact. And then on the other side, the weights for the data assets, these are weights in terms of completeness, where 1 means you don't need to collect additional data, and you can figure it out 0.5, 0.25. And by doing this calculation, you can clearly see at the bottom, in terms of priority, that business triage number 2, 0.6, is the most important to go after, because it has 2 complete data assets, data asset 1 and 2. And in terms of priority, even though it wasn't the highest, but when you make the matrix, you know that is the most complete. And followed by business triage number 1, this is the second business triage you want to go after. However, business triage number 1 being the second priority to go after, you realize that data asset number 4 is missing a lot of that data. So which means you need to prioritize collection of data for data asset number 4. Those are actions that you can take simultaneously if you have the right team members or the right amount of team members to go after those. While you can start working on business triage number 2, you start kicking off understanding the problem, the whole 9-yard in terms of a data science project lifecycle. You can also deploy efforts to start collecting additional data for data asset number 4. For when it's complete, you can kickstart a project for BT1. And you go forward with completing your demand here. And this is kind of like, to me, this table shows you to me, that's a personal opinion, what originated in what, when it comes to ML ops, is keeping up with all these business triage. If you think about this, BT1 can go to BT1000. How do you keep up with all of that? How do you make sure it's reproducible, repeatable, and consistent? So this little matrix here helps you with that.
I just want to
anything
add,
to add?
Yeah. Now, this presentation is at a very basic level. So there may be other things you should create tables for. This is an example of how you can maximize your data assets and your business goals. But please use your imaginations to think, where do we go from here? And Vikram, would you add in the chat the same things that you added in our previous thing? And then we're going to let you come on at the right point and talk about those things and where they fit into this scheme. Really appreciate you doing that. Let me go to the next slide. Very good presentation of this slide, Greg. Thank you. So how do we collaborate to do these things? Well, the goal of exploratory data analysis, EDA, and data cleansing and conditioning and feature reduction and feature engineering, all of these things, and machine learning development, is to ensure high quality, consistent data for both data storytelling and for data predictions. But a lot of the things we get out of our pipeline development are really valuable to present back to the business before we get to predictions, because all of them can answer critical business questions. And we're going to illustrate that ad nauseum. Well, I don't think you'll find it nauseating, but we're going to really emphasize it. Yeah, Guy.
I think before we move, Kimberly, she has a good question. It's about the weights and the metrics. So just before moving to the next point, I think that one, it can be cover a lot of questions that we have in mind. If we are able to go to the metrics for the business triage, and yes, the question is, it's about the weight. If you get that question on the chat, it's clear.
Yes. Oh, I see it. Yeah,
I see it.
I think she meant to say, can you speak to how
you would determine
weights
exactly
for each? Oh, okay.
Weights, so and data assets weights also.
Yeah, that's a good. So it's very much like a decision matrix where the business team has agreed on weighting these. The data scientists are just helping them. Hey, we're not going to give values here. We want to find out from you, what would you agree to how you would weight each of these business goals, these business priorities? And it may be that you help them figure out these weights with averaging their responses, et cetera, et cetera. Now, like Greg said over here, this is just data completeness. And it's not meant to apply that we never collect any more data for data asset one. It's just saying we consider this process of ongoing data collection for data asset one very good, and we have adequate amount of data to do something now. Whereas down here, data asset four, we don't even have a stochastically significant amount of data for the analysis, and we don't have good data collection there. I'm just throwing out examples. And so this highlights, well, if that's important to business triage element one, we better get on the ball and make this a high priority for data asset growth. But as far as what we can set the data scientist talent loose on, let's go attack business triage two, because we have an adequate amount of data to do stuff. Kim, does that help?
I can add a little bit to that too. So if you think about, as an example, data asset 4, which is 0.25, think about a new product that you launched and you haven't yet established a channel for customer feedback. So you're missing that data. So you want to deploy efforts to collect some customer feedback, because customer feedback is key to dealing with business triage number 1. Which is one of the use cases you want to tackle. Now, as for the weights for business triage, so weights 0.4, 0.3, 0.2, 0.1, if you think about this, there can also be a submatrix that is used to determine what these final scores are. I call them scores. And to me, a business process, you need to look at exactly as you say in your comment, in your question, it's based on impact and effort. So when you look at this business issue, what is it affecting? Is it affecting internal users, external users? Is it impeding headcount? Is it affecting your revenue, your sales, et cetera, et cetera? So you can create a matrix where you have your business stakeholders fill in, and the final score is what you have here, the 0.4, 0.3, 0.2, 0.1.
Excellent. Oh, excellent. Yes. And we missed saying goodbye to Valerie, but if someone could volunteer to capture the chat today. And then before we move back into our presentation, Vikram, I want everyone to read Vikram's comment over here. Questions need to be answered before gathering data. Now, I will present these for Vikram real quick, and you correct me if I'm wrong, son. The questions that need to be answered before gathering data or starting to work on a project. And this is actually the work of coming up with these business triage elements. On what problem are we working now, or what actually we want to solve? Now, we are suggesting this is answered by the matrix, but what I think Vikram's getting at is, hey, yes, the business needs to triage these things, what they want to go look at. What's the objective of each of the projects? And yes, we absolutely need, what are you hoping to learn from this? And then who's actually going to use the data? How are they going to act on it? These are very key things. With answering the questions above, we get the following additional questions. How am I going to frame the problem? So a lot of exploratory data analysis to figure out what data we're going to use for this. And that helps us in this work over here. So he's giving additional detail to what we're talking about in the matrix. Which algorithm I should select? Well, you select the one that does the best job, but that's part of the pipeline development process. And which performance measure is being used to evaluate this model? Again, you absolutely need that. Once you know the type of modeling you're going to do, use the same metrics on all the algorithms you explore to figure out with our current data assets what algorithm is going to do the best. And how much effort should I put into modifying and optimizing my model to make it perform better? Now, this is a good question, but I'm not good at what I'm about to say, but I think it's important to release crap. Let me say that again, to release crap, doo-doo, not performing good yet. Why? Because most of our models will do better than nothing. So as soon as you've got a pipeline working and you've got some decent results, put that in production, but keep studying, keep refining your pipeline, keep finding a better model. And as soon as you have a better model, put that into production, because you want to get in the habit of constantly updating what's in production. Okay. Thank you, Vikram, so much. Did I do okay? Vikram, did I do okay on presenting your point? Okay, good. And I have to interpret for those of you that aren't from India, this means yes. It almost looks like the American no, but it means yes. Good job, Vikram. Okay.
We have Kim with a question.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead,
Sorry, I was trying to type it all into the chat. So my question is, I find that a lot of times business leaders who have their own business priorities will tell you, these are our goals, these are our missions. And then they'll want you as the analyst to tell them what data to look at and how to frame the problem. And I think that this is where there's a huge gap, actually, in terms of data science and business leadership, because they're expecting the data scientists to understand the business. And so going back to what you guys are talking about, the communication aspect is absolutely critical. And in terms of setting up the goals and setting up those responsibilities for the data, I think that there has to be teamwork. There has to be somebody who is appointed on the business management side to be the go-between between what the goals are that the business is after and what the team has to develop. Because I find that it gets very complicated. People will start working on a specific data goal, but then because the data goal ends up being a wormhole of trying to get the right data, clean the right data, sort the right data, put it into the right format, there ends up being a loss of time and a lot of frustration from the business management perspective of, well, where's this data? I need this data. I need the answer to this question, when the formulation of the question to begin with wasn't a team effort, if you see what I mean. It was sort of pushed down. And then the analysts all have to push back up and say, well, but that's not what the data is showing us. So is there a way that we can address how you would assign that matrix in the beginning to take into consideration how to share accountability and input from both sides there?
The matrix, first of all, Kim, excellent points. And if Greg and I could only give a one-word answer to your question, we'd say collaboration. If we were allowed 2 words, we'd say more together. If we were allowed 3 words, I don't know. Point being, you're right. It has to be a team effort to do this. And you have to point out, okay, thank you for giving us these business needs that you have that you think data can help with. Now we're going to go off and look at data assets, but we might need your help to define these things at the level that Vikram has defined over here. You know, we have to explore deeper, but Kim, you're absolutely right. It has to be a collaboration, and data scientists need to be brave enough to say this. I hope that helps.
And my three words are collaborative project scoping. It's in the scoping phase that you need to understand what do you have, what you don't. You're going to have a business team members come to you and say, hey, help me solve this problem. And you realize this is a new product that you put out on the market. And then at the end of the day, you don't have enough data to help out. You don't have customer feedback. So, hey, Mr. Businessman, are you going to sponsor me for the data collection efforts? And then I can help you. Let's figure out where that data is sitting. So you're going to come in the scoping phase is when you start asking questions to the business. If they tell you use this data, well, let's sit together and explore these tables and tell me what each columns mean. How is that data generated with regards to your business processes? And that's how you discover. And all of this effort needs to happen inside of the project scoping. So this is where the collaboration happens.
And this, exactly, Greg. In this slide, though, we're down deeper. We're kind of where Vikram was talking about. We need to get frequent feedback throughout. In other words, we're going through the process and we're checking in with the stakeholders frequently to let them know what's going on so we avoid wrong directions. And this is another reason, don't just release crap from the pipeline, release crap along the development of the pipeline. Say, here's an ugly visualization. It's not shiny, but I wanted you to see what we're seeing. Well, what if that is, hey, we're still learning the relative importance of the features in this exploration, but we know this feature is most important. Wanted to let you know that. I would imagine most of those business leaders would go, that's huge. Just knowing which of these inputs is most important, we can start acting on that in some way. Great. So that's why we frequently share results and visualization during exploratory data analysis and the machine learning development steps. There's a lot of insights from that before we actually get to predictions. We help the business understand feature conditioning, feature importance, and any needed feature engineering. All of those things are important to them to understand. No, we're not changing the actual values. It's like talking about miles instead of feet when that's important. No, we're not trying to add features, just for the heck of it. If we don't add this feature, we're not getting the accuracy we should, because this feature actually needed to be squared in order for us to fit a good model, et cetera, et cetera. So, and this is so important. Guy and I preach this a lot. Models used for exploratory data analysis may be different from the models you use in production. They're just used for good explanation value. So you help the business team understand the relative importance of the features or any features that we have to engineer. And then that helps the business team translate feature weights to business actions. Again, this is part of the data storytelling. Greg, anything to add there?
No, that's pretty much it. I think you nailed it. Go ahead and do this one because I'm eyeballing the example slide.
Okay, good. So now there's a spectrum of model usage and delivery as we've implied. And what does that look like? Well, sometimes data scientists run and automate data storytelling dashboards. It's very valuable. Sometimes they run and automate reporting of model results as necessary. In other words, they're not really production. The data scientists may just running from their desk and giving reports. But there's also model deployment, where you can give the models to the stakeholders and we just update them as needed. But sometimes there's on-device deployment. There's ML ops as a subset of the DevOps, which is how we get updated software into the systems that we use it in. For example, your models may be running on an interactive website for customers to make decisions. ML ops is an integration into the software apps, for example, SaaS. That's really what I was just describing, where the models you're developing are actually used on a website. A simple example would be what Nicholas presented to us during our Tech Time chat, which was he was using A/B testing or one-armed bandits to discern, okay, we're going to present different price points. Which one's getting us the most purchases? Brilliant, right? That's the type of model that would go onto a website. So that's when that's important. So those are just the spectrum of things that have to be delivered. But the example of business and DS collaboration, let's go through that. So I think he's the master on this one. Go for it, Greg, and I'll do these.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't say the master, but it's kind of like it's close to me because I worked on a similar project before I joined Amazon because I used to work in pricing. I was a product manager focusing on pricing optimization, and I was supporting a group of commercial folks, and my goal was to empower them with the right tools, the right information, so they can take action to maximize profit. So imagine you want to reduce customer churns. Your customers are leaving. You want to figure out what's going on. You talk to your stakeholders, the commercial team, and they believe that price is the driver because your competitors are killing you. So you take price, you go to your data science team, you build a model, and boom, you have some achievements there. But it's not highly useful because the inferences are not that high. So you want to make sure you want to accuracy of the model. You want to improve that. But you don't have anything else that you could do to price because you've collected everything you could. You have done all your best ETLs or EDA, transformed it and cleaned it, and you no longer know how to improve. So with that, that's a cue for additional data collection. You want to start collecting things that become very important to the model so you can improve. And through customer interviews, you found out there are 3 more that are good for you, which is the product quality to dollar ratio, the shipping speed of your product, and ease of order and reorder relative to your competitors, meaning you make it easy for customers to come back and get the product. So immediately you start that data collection effort and you improve your model, and boom, you are able to generate value for your business. And when you find these new models, new features, you should communicate these immediately. You want to make sure your customers are aware of these because they're the ones who can help you sponsor the data collection efforts. So when you have these features also in collecting those, you want to make sure that dashboards are put together and they're being tracked. And because this now becomes the new lifeline for your model to train on. And with that effort, you finally are able to improve on your churn model predictions. And these features are more effective at retaining your customers. Now your team members, your stakeholders are equipped with the right information to make sure that they take action prior to customers leaving. And this is how you make sure you ensure the best return on data. So this one right here is one of the projects I worked on, and it's pricing is something close to my heart. And if you know of any companies, startups working on that, let me know. But yeah, anything you want to add here, Thom?
It was perfect. You just accidentally said at one point, communicate these findings immediately to the customers. Well, you found it out from the customers. All Greg meant to say is back to the business, because now the business is like, oh yeah, wow, that seems obvious. Now we should have been focused on these 3 additional features
Correct.
to retain our customers. And so, but it was spot on. It's just what's the word for typo, but when it's verbal? A verbo? I don't know.
Verbal, maybe, yeah. But good catch. It's definitely right. You want to communicate it back to the business folks, to your stakeholders, because they typically, especially for commercial teams, what I find is that they run on intuition based on how many years they've been on the industry. So you want to help them discover new things, and when you discover these things that are so malapropism, thank you, Margaret. So when you discover these things, you want to make sure you keep them in the know so they can start focusing on those. And also ongoing processes that they have to talk to new customers, that they apply some standard procedures to collect this data continuously for you, and for you to keep up and maintain your models with a steady stream of new data or new features.
Yeah, and let's just circle back for a minute in a fun way. What are we getting at here? Look at that point where we say communicate these findings immediately. We already know those should be features, but we have done no modeling. Take the emphasis off of getting the model into production, put more of an emphasis on constant feedback to the business on what's going on the whole data effort. Learn as much insight as you can and feedback those insights instantly. Don't have a spirit of it's all about getting to the predictive modeling. You see right here where we said these 3 new features were discovered to communicate these findings immediately. And yes, you got to collect the efforts. You still want to get an indication if you can, but what was more valuable? Predicting a customer was going to learn, or taking action, predicting which customers might leave, or finding out what features you can employ to retain them. And now there have to be other things like, oh, we need to know these things with respect to our competitors, etc. So a lot of data collection. In other words, the answer might not be a predictive model. It might be good data storytelling, right? All right. And then this starts at exploratory data analysis and can continue into predictive modeling. So now if we improve these and we can predict customer churn by other means, then we can take actions to seek to retain that customer too. Okay, so we bring it all together.
I think there's a quick question we can answer from from Amir. Amir has asked, how were these 3 features identified? Purely based on communicating to customers? Yes and no. Yes, it originated with customer interviews. Because again, you remember when I said people go by intuition a lot. Like if you're in sales, their intuition was like, well, our price is too high. And when you talk to the customer, they give you their own story. That's when they discover, well, when you don't ship on time to me, I tend to leave. Or when you don't make it easy for me to purchase, I tend to leave. Or when the quality that I'm getting for the dollar that I'm paying you is not quite right, I tend to leave. So when they answer those questions for you through interviews, you start going back and see what kind of data you already have and start tinkering with that data to discover new things. So it originates with, talking to the customer directly to understand what's hurting them, what's making them leave first. And this effort, unfortunately, wasn't happening. And as soon as you spend effort, talking to them, interviewing them, then asking questions, it encourages more questions to be asked on the internal side. And that's how you discover those things.
Yeah, guys, thanks for these questions. They're excellent. And a big round of applause for Vikram's contribution this morning. It's huge. Okay, bringing it all together. Why do we need to think this way? It's not about increasing the number of models that go into production. It's about giving the business more return on data through good data storytelling and good database predictions. But Greg, I'm realizing we need an update here. We need to have a say, and good and thorough pipeline development, communicating all the insightful wisdom we're getting from that pipeline development. Like, hey, we scaled the variables this way. It might be good if we took our features, if we collected our data features at this unit level. So it's closer to the final scale. Hey, when we're getting the data, this value is missing a lot. Can you make sure our data entry system insists that it not be null? You know what? Sometimes people enter this number as a string somehow. Can we get that fixed with the type checking, et cetera, et cetera? We need to communicate. All this is important to communicate back. And then good business and data science collaboration ensures ever improving return on data. And I think our dear Kimberly was pointing this out really good with her questions. Looks like she had to drop. So Greg, what would you add here?
Yeah, the one thing I will add is, this collaborative effort, this continuous communication, especially, for example, helping the business understand feature weights and their importance, to understand how they can translate that to actions. This, to me, is the best practices for explainable AI. Explainable AI typically is seen as a tool, as a tool that you can use to help out, but that leverages some scientific method maybe, or some technology or some technique. But there's also the process of explainable AI, or that promotes explainable AI. Can you imagine if I'm somebody on the commercial side who understands feature weights, understands feature importance, and I become a champion for data science teams? When the model makes an inference, I can exactly point to why it determined this customer will stay versus this customer will leave. And I can now spread the words among my commercial team members, the sales folks, to tell them, no, this is not because of price. It's because of shipping time. That shipping time is too high. Let's make sure we get the parties involved, the right parties involved, to make sure that we focus on shipping, because the shipping is a heavyweight, is a very important feature for that model. And this is why the model is pointing to these customers leaving. Because by intuition, commercial folks will say, well, this customer has been good. They had never complained about price. So why are they leaving? Why would they leave now? Why should we take action on this customer? But if you have a champion who understands the model, that person can explain that the right feature to look at is the shipping time. And they need to double down on that effort to make it better. To me, that's explainable.
Excellent, excellent. Vikram, yeah, we see your hand. Please ask.
One thing I just want to share, like I didn't join from the start, so I don't know whether it was covered or not. But I feel documenting the collaborating projects, like from the start to end, will be of great help to the future. Because consider for an example, we tried to find a vaccine for COVID-19, and we failed 5 times. And we can't throw it away, because we know which things fail, because we already tested them. And so in future, if we start again this process, we can consider the other options than those 5 features which doesn't produce a good result. Yeah.
Great points, Vikram. What I'd like to do Wait, I was hearing points, but maybe I misheard some. Was there a question embedded? Okay,
Yep.
good. I just want to make sure. Let's go to this last slide and then just keep discussing. So many realms that use data only need to worry about small sensor errors or failed sensors. By the way, some of the funnest consulting work I've done inside of UL is to help the renewable energy guys in Germany. They have a model to predict sensor failures on their giant wind turbines that are out at sea. And I've helped them improve their modeling accuracy, and it's been a blast. But these guys are spoiled because they're getting data from sensors, and they're actually just trying to figure out when the sensors fail. I mean, that's so awesome. In other realms, data collection is in a seriously bad state. Motives to collect clean, complete, accurate, and honest data are still lacking. In case y'all weren't aware, we've had a pandemic, and I would say the data collection's not been pristine, right? It's just been a travesty. Many are even motivated to skew data or misreport it. How do we better govern data collection and teach the importance of complete, clean collection so that this goes away? Moving to this state will require us all. What I'm saying is there's no easy answers here, guys. But if we all at least start thinking about it and working toward it, hopefully our grandchildren will have a world of clean data. But it's clean in some areas, but it's horribly dishonest in other areas. All right. And I can scroll back to any slide y'all want me to, but yeah, let's. And Vikram, thank you for he was almost like a co-presenter this morning, right? Oh, did he have to drop off? Oh, no, there he is, sorry. So any additional questions, guys? Any additional points you want to just add to? That would be great.
Or feedback.
Yeah, where can we make the presentation better? Kimberly, I think you should be open to going to present this somewhere with Greg. I don't
Sure.
want to all.
Yeah,
you know
absolutely.
What? Gaith and I decided until our book comes out, we're being selfish. We're presenting together as much as possible, and we have to. We have to be seen as a pair. But I also don't want anyone to think, oh, it always has to be Thom and Thom and. I'd really love to see some people go present this for us. Gaith and I don't always have to present the automating machine learning pipelines. We can give the slide deck to you. You can add your uniqueness to it and go present it. Just give us credit as originating it and writing a book on it. So we want to help y'all get more notoriety and speak and stuff. But Kimberly, I can imagine you and Greg would be quite a formidable pair presenting this. Okay, Amir, you have a question.
Yeah. So somewhere in the, I think, third last slide, you mentioned about A/B testing and models. No,
Let's see.
yeah,
Like right around here?
exactly. Do you remember mentioning about A/B testing and models?
I think you alluded to one of the model deployment methods. You alluded to somebody who had an A/B testing, something loaded on a web server. You made an example of somebody who was talking about something like that.
I don't have it actually. Yes.
Could you talk about that a little bit more?
Yes. During our tech time chat, Nicholas was he's a member of our family. He was using A/B testing or one-armed bandit type work. It's a way of doing a balance of exploring and exploiting. He was using it to find out optimal pricing for products on a website. Other ways to use that are you're trying to figure out which page layout will get the most clicks, will get the most purchases, where you can literally real time cycle the pages. And over time, there's a technique by which you explore and exploit. And that just means you're using the current best one, but every once in a while you try a new one. And what will happen, it will show you which one is emerging as the best one right there directly in the website. Instead of trying to go do a survey, you can do it real time on the website. I hope that's helping, Amir. Is that?
Do you remember?
Follow-up question. Yeah. So if I may go ahead, like, isn't that a product manager's job? Like, how do we as a data scientist, get into the testing, or like what aspect of data science is deploying this model about?
So it's the data scientist's job to provide the algorithm appropriately to cycle through the options carefully until the best one is discovered. But yes, it's the project manager's job to figure out which things they need tested. Does that make sense? So that's a great example of collaboration right there. We're not the ones coming up with the different pages or the different prices. We're providing the algorithm to figure out which option has got the best performance based on the metric they care about. So are they looking for page views? Okay. Are you looking for purchases? Okay. Now we can provide the algorithm, and we work with software developers to provide the right code. I hope that helped, Amir.
Thom, is that something that's
Yes.
was it a open source tool? Would you mind sharing that? I haven't had a chance to see it.
You know what? If y'all will help me remember, in fact, I need to look at my old code today. I have some code that I learned from the, so I love the lazy programmer. When I want to learn from a guru, I would say his knowledge is broader than mine because he's like a full-time educator. But I'm not saying I don't like the way he codes. I'm just saying I like the way I code better. So when he says stop the video and go develop your own code, then maybe compare it to mine. I always try to do that unless I'm in a hurry, because I just like to code it myself. So by his encouragement, I understand it better. So I will share my code on some fake data. We kind of know ahead of time which option is going to be better, but we pretend we don't. We test the algorithm, A/B testing wise. I hate that term, by the way. I prefer the one-armed bandit or Thompson sampling, but I'll show you some methods for that. Just help me remember, and I'll either add the code to our GitHub or a course repo or something like that. I'll make it available. Maybe I'll even do it in a post. That might even be better. So I'll get it out soon for y'all, but help me remember to do that. It's something I plan to study today anyway. And yeah, that'll be a good way to do it, I think. Okay, good. Oh, sorry, Sai, thanks for waiting.
Yeah, it was a wonderful presentation. I just had a doubt regarding collecting the data. Like, what if the data is not easily accessible? Like, for example, in my case, I'm working on research and I need images of the rocks. And I found a site called Imperial College of London. But that data is not easily accessible. That images, I'm not able to download it like easily. So what to do in that case? Like, is there any other sources?
So this is an excellent question. By the way, to those of you worried about saying in the chat, I can see the whole chat. So if it comes down to it, I will save it, but we'll figure it out. In other words, I scrolled up and Bing Soon was the first one to comment. Here's the point. Sai, sometimes we have to go collect the data. We might be the ones dictating the way the data is collected. We may be the ones that have to design a survey. Now, if any of y'all are thinking, that sounds really important and like I got to be really careful so I don't create bias. You're absolutely right. If you go look at the data science track on EDX, that's Microsoft's Learning, you can do all their courses for free. The only time it costs is if you want to get an official certification. That's how they help pay for and fund their courses, but they want to make the education available for all. And there's an excellent course on how to collect really good, powerful data from a professor out of Washington State here in our country. And I'll try to find that for you too. But if you just go to the data science track, EDX, and look for data sampling or data collection, it's an outstanding course. Really loved the teacher for that one. And it was because I'm in the engineering fields with my data science and horribly spoiled with good, clean data most of the time. That course meant a lot to me, because then I thought, oh, I can always go back and refer to what I understood from this if I have to go collect data myself. I hope that helps. But
Yeah.
Hopefully there's teams in the company that are really careful about the way they collect data. But in the data governance sense, since it's all our responsibility, I think we need to take great care on how the data is collected, how the questions are formed, everything. So it's a huge art. Okay, any other questions? Just while I'm waiting for other possible questions, back to Amir's question. Amir, it's kind of like a running average. You're looking for which one gets the best results for the amount of sample times it's analyzed it. And there's various mathematical ways to go about it, but it kind of all comes back to this spirit of which one's got the best running average for the number of times it's been used. And so if you start out with one and it's doing well, but it's not really ultimately going to be the best one, when it does the explore, it will use the one that probably is better enough to figure out, oh, I'm going to keep using this one more often now. It looks like it's doing better. It's quite clever the way this works. And it is the most fundamental application of the principles of reinforced learning, just so you guys know. It's pretty cool. And I don't want any of you to learn only from Gaith and I, by the way, or from Greg and I. That lazy programmer guy, please learn everything you can from him. I'm eager to finally have the time to take Danny Ma's SQL course. I would love to take all of the courses from Andrew Jones at Data Science Affinity. You might be thinking, Dad, do you need that? Well, I review a lot and I like to see the way other people teach. I think their materials are probably outstanding. I'd like to take all of Dave Langer's courses, for example. Well, he uses R. I know, he's corrupt. I'm joking. He's a pirate, he's a heretic. That's why I love him. And R is a good language, by the way. I just don't use it as much. Yeah. Danny Moss SQL. Good. What's up? Okay. Do you need anything from me?
And also Harpreet's new course, to understand the importance of business in each and every prospect of the project. Like he's explaining in the business perspective,
Exactly.
everything, like his new curriculum.
Yeah, I mean, once our book is out, Gaith and I hope you will buy it. But do we think that's the only machine learning book you should ever own? I hope you have more than our book. Yeah. So, but we absolutely hope you buy our book and tell everyone else to buy it too. So, but seriously, yeah, I think that A/B test is such a bad name. A/B testing should be ABC, etc. testing. Very powerful, very, very good thing that we do. Okay, any other questions?
And we must have done a great job, Thom.
I think I know we did. So yeah, Amir
I'm
is
just
agreeing.
kidding.
Excellent presentation, Tom and Greg. Thank you for the brilliant insights. I got to go now. Yeah, you know what? As you can see, the coast of Maine is in my background, and I think it's a nice day. I wish I was in Maine actually, but I'm going to go pretend to walk there. So I think this is a good breaking point. We normally go much longer, but I think it was just the nature of the day and the nature of the time of year. So unless there are any more questions, I think we should let everyone go. Melissa, thank you. Really appreciate that. And as always, you know, I love you all. You notice Jonathan had to leave, so I updated my name, Hugo. All right. Anything else, guys? And while I'm waiting, I'll just update it one more time. Any concerns with work that you're doing? Any, I can stick around longer just in case you have some technical questions.
Sai owes us a presentation on explainable AI. So, Sai, you remember that presentation, yeah? So yeah, I actually was trying to work with him in that book, but Sai is faster than me, so he's very much ahead. I am coming slowly because I have quite a number of projects. And I think Sai will do a good job. I'll just be sharing it from the side and possibly chipping one or two things. I'm confident he'll do well.
Hugo, make sure you're using your other good mic.
All right.
It might have switched on you because I think you had it set up in Google Meet, and he just got a new system. So, but the new system's mic is not as good as the old one. All right. Yes, Vivek and Anupam, thank you, and thank you, Vikram, and thank you for your additions today. They were super helpful. Okay, I'm going to sign out.
All right.
Guys, have a great rest of your weekend.
Thank you, guys.